Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. If you've been following our ongoing coverage of BTS's American leg of the Arirang World Tour, then you already know we've covered the historic first ever performance at Gillette Stadium, and today, we're circling back to talk about the second and final night of that Foxborough run, because based on everything fans have shared from that specific evening, this particular show carried its own distinct character, one defined by a striking new visual look, genuinely difficult weather conditions, and a closing message from Jimin that's already being widely shared and discussed across social media. Let's talk through everything we know about this specific night, and why so many fans are describing it as something genuinely different from the rest of this tour. So let's start with some quick context, because understanding the broader significance of this stop really helps frame everything else we're about to discuss. Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts hosted BTS for 2 consecutive nights, Wednesday, August 5th, and Thursday, August 6th, marking the very first time the group had ever performed at this particular venue, and officially becoming the largest headlining K-pop show this stadium has ever hosted. We've already covered the first night extensively in a previous video, including that widely praised Boston Globe review specifically highlighting Jimin's vocals during Fake Love. Today, we're focusing specifically on that second and final night, which based on fan documentation, brought its own unique set of memorable moments. Let's talk first about the visual element that immediately caught fans' attention, because it represents yet another entry in what's become this incredibly extensive, ever-evolving collection of styling choices Jimin has cycled throughout this entire touring cycle. For this particular show, he appeared in a patterned white bandana, tied over his hair, paired with a simple white t-shirt and distressed, ripped denim-style pants. This represents a genuinely different visual direction compared to what we discussed in our previous video covering the striking gray, cool-toned hair color he debuted at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey just days earlier. Let's think about why this kind of frequent, ongoing visual evolution has become such a defining characteristic of his presence throughout this particular touring cycle. If you've been following our coverage throughout this entire tour, you already know we've discussed multiple different hairstyle and color transformations, from that signature blonde look maintained for months during the earlier legs of this tour, through the World Cup halftime show, to that dramatic shift toward gray and silver tones we covered extensively following the New Jersey shows, and now, this bandana-styled look for this particular Boston area stop. This pattern of frequent, deliberate visual reinvention throughout a single touring cycle has become genuinely characteristic of how he approaches his overall presentation during this era. Let's also touch on the broader historical pattern of bandana styling specifically appearing throughout different stops on this tour, because this isn't necessarily an entirely new element within this touring cycle's overall visual language. Throughout various stops on this extensive world tour, fans have documented numerous different braided hairstyles and accessory choices, with the specific combination of braids, bandanas, and other head coverings becoming this recurring, evolving element throughout the tour's overall visual identity, generating its own dedicated fan documentation and discussion at practically every single stop along the way. Let's shift now to talking about the weather conditions surrounding this particular show, because based on Jimin's own comments during the performance, this factor played a genuinely significant role in shaping the overall experience of this specific night. According to what fans have shared regarding his closing remarks at the end of the show, he specifically acknowledged just how hot and humid the weather had been, noting that the combination of intense heat and high humidity had made conditions genuinely uncomfortable throughout the performance. Let's think about the broader context of touring through New England specifically during early August, because summer heat and humidity in this particular region can genuinely create challenging conditions for any kind of outdoor performance, let alone one involving this level of physically demanding choreography across an extended, multi-hour show. Gillette Stadium, like most major outdoor stadium venues, offers performers essentially no protection from these kinds of environmental conditions, meaning that whatever the actual weather happens to be on any given night directly impacts the physical experience of delivering that night's performance. Let's also connect this specific detail back to what we discussed in our previous videos regarding similar heat-related challenges during the earlier New Jersey shows at MetLife Stadium. If you've been following this channel closely, you already know we covered how challenging weather conditions during that specific stop led to some genuinely notable moments, including that instance where Jimin's shoe slipped during choreography, which we discussed in detail in an earlier video. Given that this Boston area stop occurred just days after those New Jersey shows, and given his own specific acknowledgement of the heat and humidity during this Foxborough performance, it's clear that these environmental challenges have been a genuinely consistent, ongoing factor throughout this particular stretch of the American touring leg. Let's now get into the specific closing message that's generated so much fan discussion and emotional response following this particular show. According to what's been shared and translated by fans documenting this performance, Jimin's ending remarks touched on several genuinely meaningful themes beyond just simply acknowledging the difficult weather conditions. He specifically thanked the audience for coming out to meet them, to sing and dance together, and for making that particular day feel genuinely special, despite everything happening with the heat and humidity. Let's think about the deeper sentiment expressed within that specific message, because it reveals something genuinely thoughtful about how he was processing and framing the entire experience of that particular night. Rather than simply focusing on the physical discomfort of the challenging weather conditions, he specifically expressed hope that this particular day wouldn't be remembered simply as a hot and humid one, but rather as a beautiful, joyful memory, one built around the shared experience of spending that time together with the audience. That kind of reframing, choosing to emphasize the meaningful, shared human connection over the purely physical discomfort of the conditions, reflects a genuinely mature, thoughtful perspective on how to process and communicate about a challenging performance experience. Let's also touch on the additional sentiment he reportedly expressed regarding wanting to return again in the future, specifically hoping for the opportunity to share similar moments and sing together again down the line. This kind of forward-looking, hopeful message adds this genuinely meaningful emotional layer to the overall closing moment of this particular show, suggesting a genuine, heartfelt connection to this specific stop and this specific audience, beyond just fulfilling the technical requirements of delivering a scheduled performance. Let's think about why this specific combination of elements, the challenging weather, the new visual styling, and this particularly heartfelt closing message, has led fans to describe this night as feeling genuinely different from other stops throughout this extensive touring cycle. There's something about the convergence of these different factors, physical difficulty combined with genuine emotional vulnerability and gratitude, that tends to create these particularly memorable, meaningful moments within an already extensive touring schedule. When a performer specifically acknowledges difficult circumstances while simultaneously expressing genuine appreciation and hope for future connection, it creates this kind of authentic, human moment that resonates deeply with audiences experiencing or later hearing about that specific performance. Let's also spend some time thinking about the broader pattern we've observed throughout this entire comeback year regarding these kinds of genuine, heartfelt moments of connection between Jimin and audiences throughout various stops on this tour. We've discussed extensively how his consistent professionalism and dedication as a performer has remained a defining characteristic throughout this entire touring cycle, even when facing genuinely challenging circumstances like difficult weather conditions or physical fatigue from an extensive touring schedule. This particular closing message from the Boston area stop represents another meaningful example of that broader pattern, specifically choosing to frame a physically difficult experience through the lens of genuine gratitude and hope for continued connection with fans. Let's think about the significance of this kind of direct communication with fans more generally, particularly within the context of a massive stadium tour where the scale of the production and the sheer number of audience members might otherwise create a sense of distance or impersonality. Taking that closing moment to specifically address the difficult conditions everyone had just experienced together, while framing the shared experience in such genuinely warm, appreciative terms, helps maintain that sense of authentic, personal connection even within the context of an 80,000-plus person stadium show. Let's also touch on how this specific message likely resonated with fans who were present for this particular show, having just endured those same challenging heat and humidity conditions alongside the performers themselves. There's something genuinely validating about hearing a performer specifically acknowledge and empathize with the physical difficulty of the shared experience, rather than simply pushing through the show without any direct commentary on the conditions everyone had collectively endured throughout that performance. Let's think about the broader significance of this bandana-styled look specifically appearing during this particular emotionally significant performance, adding this additional visual dimension to how this specific night gets remembered and documented by fans. Given how much attention Jimin's various styling choices throughout this tour have generated, having this particular look specifically associated with this emotionally resonant closing message creates this additional layer of meaning connecting the visual and emotional elements of this specific performance together within the broader collective memory of this tour stop. Let's also spend some time discussing the broader context of how these kinds of heartfelt, spontaneous closing messages typically get documented and shared within the fandom more generally. Unlike officially scripted or planned content, these kinds of genuine, in-the-moment remarks tend to feel especially meaningful precisely because they represent authentic, unscripted communication directly from the performer to the audience, capturing genuine emotional processing happening in real time rather than carefully crafted promotional messaging. Let's think about what this specific closing message might reveal about the broader emotional experience of touring at this intensity and scale, particularly during a stretch of shows facing these kinds of genuinely challenging environmental conditions. Performing at this level of physical intensity, night after night, across an already extensive touring schedule, while also dealing with unpredictable and sometimes genuinely difficult weather conditions, represents a significant physical and emotional undertaking. Having moments like this closing message, where the difficulty gets acknowledged and processed in real time, while still being framed through a lens of genuine gratitude and connection, offers fans this meaningful glimpse into how these performers navigate and find meaning within these demanding touring conditions. Let's also touch on the broader pattern of Boston area audiences specifically, and what this particular closing message might suggest about the overall energy and reception BTS experienced during this historic first-ever visit to this specific region. Given that this represented the first time BTS had ever performed in the greater Boston area, there was likely a genuine sense of occasion and significance surrounding both nights of this particular stop, and having Jimin specifically express this level of gratitude and hope for future connection suggests that this particular audience's energy and reception made a genuinely meaningful impression throughout the performance. Let's think about how this specific moment fits within the broader collection of memorable instances we've documented throughout this entire American touring leg. From the historic World Cup final halftime show, through the emotionally significant return to MetLife Stadium after 7 years, through various individual styling and performance moments we've covered extensively, and now to this particular Boston area stop with its combination of challenging conditions and genuinely heartfelt communication, each of these individual moments continues building toward this increasingly comprehensive, detailed picture of just how meaningful and multifaceted this entire comeback touring cycle has been. Let's also spend some time thinking about what this kind of consistent pattern of thoughtful, genuine communication with fans might mean for how this particular era of BTS's career gets remembered and discussed by fans in the years ahead. Beyond just the impressive production values, the historic venue milestones, and the individual performance highlights we've covered throughout this entire tour, these kinds of genuine, heartfelt moments of direct communication and connection with audiences often end up being some of the most meaningfully remembered aspects of any given touring cycle, precisely because they capture something authentic and human within the broader context of these massive, elaborately produced stadium productions. Let's think about the practical significance of weather-related challenges specifically becoming this recurring theme throughout the American leg of this touring cycle, given what we've discussed regarding similar conditions during the earlier New Jersey shows. This pattern suggests that touring through the northeastern United States during this particular summer stretch has presented genuinely consistent environmental challenges for the performers, requiring this kind of ongoing physical resilience and adaptability throughout multiple consecutive stadium shows in relatively close succession. Let's also touch on the broader significance of fans specifically choosing to document and translate these kinds of closing remarks, ensuring that this content reaches and resonates with the broader international fanbase, even for those who weren't able to attend this specific performance in person. This kind of dedicated fan documentation and translation work plays a genuinely significant role in ensuring that meaningful moments like this closing message reach the widest possible audience, allowing fans around the world to feel connected to these authentic moments of communication, even when language barriers might otherwise prevent that broader accessibility. Let's think about what this specific combination of new visual styling and genuinely heartfelt closing communication might suggest about the overall emotional arc of this particular touring stretch, as BTS continues making their way through this extensive American leg before eventually moving on to additional stops throughout the remainder of this world tour. Each individual stop seems to be generating its own distinct combination of visual, performance, and emotional highlights, creating this rich, detailed tapestry of memorable moments that collectively define just how significant and multifaceted this entire touring cycle has become. Let's also spend some time discussing the broader significance of this kind of authentic emotional expression specifically coming from Jimin, given everything we've discussed throughout this entire comeback year regarding his consistent recognition as one of BTS's most compelling and emotionally resonant performers. This closing message adds another meaningful data point to that broader established pattern, demonstrating not just his technical performance skills, but also this genuine capacity for heartfelt, authentic communication with audiences during these significant touring moments. Let's think about how this specific Boston area stop, With its combination of historic first-time venue significance, challenging weather conditions, striking new visual styling, and genuinely emotional closing communication, will likely be remembered within the broader context of this entire American touring leg. Given everything we've discussed regarding just how many different memorable elements converged during this particular stop, it's reasonable to expect this Foxborough run, and this second night specifically, to remain one of the more frequently referenced and discussed stops throughout the broader story of this historic touring cycle. Let's also touch on what fans might be looking forward to as this tour continues making its way through the remainder of its extensive American schedule, given the pattern we've observed of each stop generating its own unique combination of memorable moments. With additional major stadium stops still ahead throughout this touring leg, it's reasonable to expect continued waves of similarly significant visual, performance, and emotional highlights as BTS continues this historic return to large-scale touring following their extended military service hiatus. Let's wrap up by recapping everything we've discussed today regarding this particularly memorable second night at Gillette Stadium. During this final Foxborough show, Jimin appeared in a striking new bandana-styled look, paired with a simple white t-shirt in distressed denim, representing yet another entry in this tour's ever-evolving visual presentation. The performance took place under genuinely challenging heat and humidity conditions, which he specifically acknowledged during his closing remarks, expressing genuine gratitude to the audience for their presence and energy despite the difficult weather, while specifically hoping that this particular day would be remembered not for the challenging conditions, but as a beautiful, shared memory, alongside expressing genuine hope for the opportunity to return and share similar moments again in the future. This entire night really does illustrate something genuinely meaningful about the combination of physical challenge and authentic emotional connection that's continued defining this remarkable touring cycle throughout its extensive American leg. Beyond just the impressive production scale and historic venue milestones we've documented throughout this tour, moments like this closing message from Boston remind us of the genuine human experience underlying these massive stadium productions, capturing authentic gratitude and connection even amid genuinely challenging physical circumstances. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed this breakdown of everything happening during this particularly memorable second night at Gillette Stadium, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update like this one in the future. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you thought about this specific closing message, and if you were fortunate enough to attend either night of this historic first ever Boston area stop, I would genuinely love to hear about your own experience navigating those challenging weather conditions alongside the group. As always, thank you for being here, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video.